Good morning, everybody. Well, today I have Daniel Rowe with me. We had talked about Frank's question last week. He wanted to see some more examples, get some more information on how Daniel is using the market analyzer during our sales webinars. So I talked to Daniel, and he said he'd be glad to show you what he's doing, and I'll give you guys a little lesson today. I'll switch it over to Daniel.
All right. Well, yeah. So as Zach mentioned, we're going to spend some time today on the market analyzer. I'm first going to build a simple signal, and then we'll add that into the market analyzer. But before I do that, I want to just take a couple of minutes and tell you who I am. A lot of you know that I've been working closely with the guys at Shark Indicators, helping them with the sales webinars, providing the service to all of you guys, all the BloodHound owners, for anyone who needs one-on-one training, one-on-one help in template design or strategy creation. And I kind of made this little cheesy slide to illustrate that. So we've been working together for quite some time now. Let me just now take a moment and tell you a few things about myself. So this is a big old ugly picture of me. I've been trading since 2007. I got started in Guayaquil, Ecuador, actually working for a private equity firm, fresh out of college. Started off in portfolio management, and I was actually paid to study, which was really, really incredible for me. I got to take dozens and dozens of courses and trial software, learn several different softwares, which was all paid for, which was, pretty awesome. So then I started studying trading systems design and implementation, which is really quite difficult to do when you don't know how to program, because as I mentioned in the sales webinars, doing backtesting by hand is such a tedious process. But that's what I was involved in for a number of years, and then I began developing my own methods and wanted to get into automation and learn how to program. And a buddy of mine actually told me about BloodHound. I found it April 1st and bought it the same day, and I've been running with it ever since. And so now for about a year, a little over a year, I've gotten pretty adept at it, and I've been working with hundreds, well, not hundreds, I'd say about 110 people so far that I've worked with, and built maybe 250 different systems. So this is the website. So if you want any more information, just go to the website. You can send me an email through the site if you want to find out more about getting help designing your own system. I offer custom BloodHound programming. We can actually program black box algos that you can resell if you have a website and you want to become a partner. So that service is offered. We do one-on-one BloodHound training. I can help you develop your own methodology. And a lot of times I work with people that have designed their strategies in BloodHound, but they've done it in a way that is somewhat cumbersome. There's always at least 2 or 3 ways. I would say there's at least 3 or 4 ways to build a certain set of conditions. So what I've noticed is people tend to kind of do things in a way that take up more resources than are needed. So I've worked to kind of rebuild people's templates in a more efficient and just a way that NinjaTrader can access much faster, and it doesn't take as long to download and get everything running. It just makes things work much more smoothly. So we can also help you to develop alerts in Ninja's Market Analyzer, which is what I'm going to go over today. So just briefly, let me run you through a couple of systems that I developed for some people. This is the first one I actually did for a gentleman. This is a momentum trade. This is an ADX stochastics trade using a number of different higher time frame conditions and whatnot. This would be that system and implementation. This is an opening range breakout. We actually built this in the last webinar that I did, or the last Friday workshop. I think it was the last one. So this would be the signal and implementation. This would be the regular divergence template that I created, just a quick and dirty way of finding divergence, regular divergence between price and an oscillator. This is what that signal looks like. Works very, very well. I like to use it in an exit strategy more so than an entry. So a couple more of those signals, divergence signals. This is something I developed with the VWAP, volume weighted average price, and pivot points. These are those signals. And this is another system I developed with the VWAP and delta per bar, not cumulative delta. And that would be those signals. So I've worked with a number of different systems and methods. You know, if you can think of it, we can build it in BloodHound, and that's pretty much a wrap on that. So now let's get started building the market analyzer. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how to build a very simple little signal, kind of a trend trade type signal, and then we're going to load this into the market analyzer so that we can let the computer monitor more markets for us and then notify us when these conditions have been met. Then we can pull that chart up and we can decide whether we want to take that next setup or not. So right, I'll just add the 210 crossover. Here we go. And I'll color this one black. All right. So with this one, we're simply looking at when the 2-period SMA is crossing above or below the 10-period SMA. All right, so we're looking when the 2 crosses below the 10, we give a short. When it crosses above the 10, we give a long. All right. Imagine that's the condition that we want to trade. So what we can do, in order to watch more markets, we can put this BloodHound template into the market analyzer. All right, so I'm going to start from scratch and show you how to set it up. So follow along with me. Go to your control center, go to File, New, Market Analyzer. All right, and we're going to build this thing from scratch. So here's the market analyzer. All right, let's first set up the columns how we want them. All right, now the way that I do it, I don't need the description. I don't need the net change. All I want is the last price. And then I want to add BloodHound. All right, so we go down to indicator right here. Now what you have to do is you have to add it twice. All right, you have one for the short condition, and then you have the other for the long condition. All right, so when you add indicator, it immediately comes up with this ADL. So what we have to do now, let's say, well, let's just keep using a 1-minute chart. We'll look back. 50 is really fine for a 210 crossover. So we can use 50 bars, calculate on bar close, true. If you use false, it's going to take up a lot of resources, depending on whether you need calculate on bar close set to false. If you want you know, your signals to fire intra-bar before the bar closes. But for this example, we'll use calculate on bar close true. Now, I always set this to infinite. I don't know that it really matters one way or the other, but I just tend to set that to infinite. So now we're going to select BloodHound through this list, through the indicator. So indicator, you can see it comes up default to ADL. We want to scroll down to the S's. And I do hope you're following along with me, because you'll get a lot more out of this if you are. Select SI BloodHound. Let's see. So okay, we'll use the long for the first one. We'll use the short for the second one. So we'll keep this set to confidence long. All right. You could choose between long and short. We'll keep this one set to long. All right. We can use the color for the background, white and black, and I'll show you how to set up the cells in a moment. All right. So now we want to define the BloodHound template. We want to set this to the 210 crossover. Okay, so that's the template we were just looking at on the chart. All right, so we'll add the 210 cross. We then have to go to the Logic tab and select the proper Logic tab. Okay, and if you have several, then you need to select the one that you want the market analyzer to look at. All right, so we go to Template, we open it up, we add it in through File, Open if you have to, if it's not in this list, and then go to the Logic tab and select the proper Logic tab. Okay, then click OK. Show racing stripes is fine. Now we want to play an alert because we want to be notified when this signal goes off. Okay, and we'll set this to, let's just say, alert 4. Of course, you can choose any one that you want. If you have your own custom alerts, you can use any alert that you want. Okay, I have plenty. So we'll just use number 4 here. All right, and that's how you set up this portion of it. Okay, so we're looking at the long. So now we want to set up the sell conditions. Okay, let's do that now. So what do we want the sell to say, to read when we get that condition being met in BloodHound? So let's define that now. So we click on New, and this is for the long condition. So that would mean that the BloodHound output would be greater than 0.8 for long. Okay, so what do we need here for the condition? We need greater than, let's set it greater than or equal to, because it could equal 0.8. Depending on your system, this one is obviously always going to equal 1 or negative 1. But let's say that you have, some sort of fuzzy logic in there, and you might end up getting a signal that you want to accept that only equals 0.8. So let's use is greater than or equal to 0.8. Okay, and then we want our text to say, let's just say bullish cross. Okay, so right, we'll just call this a bullish cross, and then we'll color the background, color it lime green, and then the color for the foreground, which is really the text, will be black. I believe it's the text. Yeah, we'll find out in a second. So that's the condition for the long. You label it, whatever you want it to read in the cell, and whatever color you want for the background of the cell when the condition's been met. Actually, let's, for the, so that we can see this thing get so many signals in the time that we're doing this. Let's set it to, I don't know, let's set it to 20 ticks. All right, what else do I need here? We've got the label, the color for the foreground, the color for the background. We'll just leave those. Showing total row. We want to set this to true so that we can see this for every instrument. I believe that's what that's for. I'm not 100%, but I always set that to true. So type regular. Right, we want it set to regular. And that's it. So that's for our long condition. Okay. Now for the short condition, we're going to set this to a tick chart as well. 20 tick. Calculate on bar close true. We want to call this a 210 cross. I think I need to set that on the other one as well. Yep, 210 cross. So this is what it's going to read above where you see instrument, last price, bearish divergence. This will say a 210 cross where it says bearish divergence and bullish divergence. Okay. For a long, bullish cross. For the short, bearish cross. Okay? And then we'll set this to infinite. show in total row, true, type regular. Now for the indicator, we set this to BloodHound once again. So scroll down to SI BloodHound. Then, okay, so when I do that, I need to go back and change the label because it automatically labels it the name of the indicator with the template file. So let me select the template file first, and then I'll go back and I'll change the name of the label. All right, so we'll now use confidence short, and then I'll select the 210 for the template. So the 210 cross. Now I go to the logic tab. Remember, go to the logic tab and select the appropriate logic tab, which is our entry. Click OK. We want an alert. Yes, we do. We'll set that to the same, alert 4. And now we'll change this to 210 bearish cross. All right, and now we're going to build the sell conditions. So we open up the sell conditions, and just so that everybody understands that, you just click on this little etc. button, and then select new. And for this one, we're using the short, right? So we're looking at a value of negative 0.8. Right, so it's either equal to or less than or equal to, okay? And then we want to say, what did we put in the last one? We'll say bearish cross. I think I put bullish cross in the last one, so we'll use, for the background, we'll use red. And then we can use black for the foreground, that's fine. And that's it, it's that simple. And then you click OK. So that's how we set up the market analyzer. It's really, I know it can be a little bit overwhelming when you don't fully understand how this thing works, but I think this example that you'll be able to refer back to will help you tremendously. And then you just have to, change what you want to label it, which template you want to use, and then which alerts you want to use. And you can see we just had a divergence signal go off in gold on the 1 minute. All right, so now we will click OK, and here we've loaded it. So now I need to add the instruments. So let's add crude oil. Let's add, let's just keep adding them, a few of them. We'll add gold as well, add copper. The NASDAQ, and silver. There, we just had a bullish cross. See, it doesn't last long. It only lasts as long as a bar. So if a bar plots and then, 2 seconds later it plots another bar, then obviously it'll go away. So there we go. We just had another bearish cross. I'm not sure if you can hear those sounds or not, but you can hear the alert too when it plots the when it fills the cell with the background, with the red background and the green background, and the so there we go, another one, another bearish cross. So that's how you use the market analyzer with BloodHound. Now what you can do is you could add in as many templates in the same market analyzer as you want. Normally I have one market analyzer on one side, another market analyzer on the next, but you can go in here and you can add indicator as many times as you want. So you could add it 5, 6, 7, 8 times and have different templates. Obviously you have to have 2 for each template, 1 for the long, 1 for the short, and do it that way. Let me show you one thing that we could do here now. So I could use, let's say we keep it to the tick chart. We'll keep it to a 20-tick chart, and then I'll add in SI BloodHound. I'll add in a trend finding condition, right? So I'll add in SI BloodHound, and then I'll go in and use one of these templates that I've built. Let's see. This one. Okay. And I'll select the appropriate template. We'll use trend 2, which is just a way of solving for the trend using price action and docking channels and the swings indicator. Somewhat complex, but a good way to solve for the trend. And calculate on bar close true. We'll set this to uptrend true. I'm not going to use an alert. I just want to show, I just want to show the label in the row. So I just want to be, I just want to see a green background and uptrend, or a red background and downtrend. All right, so I'll set up those conditions now. That alert's about to drive me crazy here. Let me turn that off when I get this set up. All right, so this will be 0.8, so greater than or equal to 0.8. We want to say uptrend. We'll set it to green, lime green. Okay. And then we'll set this one also to BloodHound for the short. File, Trend Finder. Then I go to the Logic tab, select the appropriate Logic tab, click OK. No alert. This is going to be our short. So we label it downtrend. And again, 20 ticks. I mean, this is ridiculously fast, but just for the sake of an example. True for calculate on bar close. We can use, we only need, actually, for this one, I think I need about 500 bars. Well, I think the look back is only about 100, but just in case, I'll use 500 bars. Let me set that to 500 as well, and then set this to infinite for maximum bars look back. The thing's about to drive me crazy. I don't know if y'all can hear that or not. Okay, and then infinite. And now we set up the sell condition. We want to paint it red for the downtrend. And the text is going to read downtrend. And we want less than or equal to negative 0.8. Sorry, negative 0.8. Same thing. Okay, that's got it. So now we have BloodHound added twice. And we will always either have downtrend or uptrend in these cells. So let me now turn off this alert before it drives me crazy. So I'll turn off that sound alert, and we'll still see the visual. And now it's refreshing. So that's how you set up the market analyzer. I imagine there are some questions. So let me look through these now. Al T is asking, how long will the signal show? It's really only for the length of the bar most of the time. Sometimes Ninja will only show it for just a few seconds. I don't know how exactly that works, but I know that when I use a 5-minute bar, it usually stays there for about 5 minutes. Sometimes when I use a 1-minute bar, it will stay up to 1 minute, but then other times it will kind of flash, and then 10 seconds later it's gone. So there seems to be a little bit of inconsistency there. But when you set it up like I have here for the uptrend and downtrend, so if you're getting a continuous signal out of BloodHound, for instance, how you would for, using whether you're above or below a moving average continuously for every single bar, so it would give a long as long as price is above a certain moving average, and then it would give a short when price is below that moving average. So if you're getting constant output from BloodHound, then that signal will stay lit up forever, until you get no output from BloodHound. All right, which is why it usually lasts the length of the bar for most signals. And I would say it's that way 90% of the time. It just seems like every now and then it'll flash and then it kind of fades or disappears before the bar actually before the next bar closes. So that's kind of interesting how that works. I'm not 100% sure if there's some kind of error in the way it's handled. I don't really know. Be a good question for Ninja support. I don't see anything that would tell me how long it could last just in here and everything that I've watched on the market analyzer. So yeah, you're welcome to look into it through Ninja Help. Obviously, you could go to the help and then go to the help guide and just type in to the search market analyzer, right? And then you get all of these different topics you can look up, and a lot of these are associated with videos. So that's how you can learn more about the market analyzer. But really, this is one of the major ways in which I use BloodHound, especially for discretionary trading, and I think this is what makes BloodHound such an incredibly useful tool together with Ninja, because you can now take the market analyzer to an entirely new level with as many conditions as you could possibly think of. So you're not limited to what we could look at before, whereas we could look at an indicator, but for instance we could show when the stochastics was above or below a threshold, but that's about it. So now we can design those conditions inside of BloodHound with as many other conditions as we want and have all of them together in the same column and in the same row. So I think that's very, very cool. What else do we have here for the analyzer? Is that one instance of BloodHound analyzing all the instruments? Yes. Yep. So I have BloodHound added once here for the bullish cross. All right. So when I go back to columns, you can see here. So the first instance of BloodHound, right? I've labeled it 210 bullish cross. That's this one. And that's the confidence long. So what I would get in the sell when the conditions have been met, I would get this text, bullish cross, and it would have a background of lime. Just like now we got the bearish cross. Okay, now we got the bullish cross, so it just crossed from bearish to bullish. So now you see that condition being lit up in real time, and this is how we define that condition. So it's, is BloodHound's output greater than 0.8 or equal to 0.8? If yes, give us a bullish cross text and color the background lime. Do you see how it does? So that's for the confidence long. Now the second one, the 210 bearish cross, is for the short plot. So it's for the red plot in BloodHound. Is it equal to or less than negative 0.8? If yes, give us this text, bearish cross, as you see right here, and paint the background red. All right, that's what the market analyzer is all about. So is it less than or equal to negative 0.8? If yes, give me the text bearish cross, color the background red, and then of course we could play an alert sound if we wanted to. Right now that would, it's just too much. So we could then select whichever alert we wanted to use there. Okay, and then obviously the next one is for the uptrend signal, which I've labeled right here, uptrend. And that's for the long, and then the last one is for the downtrend for the short. And of course I just have to add in BloodHound for the indicator, and when I do that, then all of these other parameters are, they come up, so then I can choose the template that I want, and with choosing the template, I then choose the appropriate logic tab. In this case, it is this logic tab that I've defined here. Okay, what else do we have here? Can you show these alerts in an alert window so you can keep track of the signals? An alert window, that's maybe something I haven't used before. Okay, yeah. I suppose you could. I've never used this. That's pretty interesting. I'm not going to get into this now because I'd look like an idiot trying to fumble around here, but this is, nothing I've really used before. I limit it to, to what I do, just to the market analyzer, and that's plenty for me. I don't need to keep track of the alerts, but yeah, I imagine you could. You would just have to figure out how to set that up. Maybe that's a good question for next time. I'll look into that and get back to you, Al. All right, so
I'm in there, Al. We really never designed BloodHound to use the alerts window. 'Cause, yeah, I've never used it myself. So, yeah, I'd have to do some more research to learn more about how the alerts works. What triggers an event in the alerts window. So, yeah, we'd have to get back to you on that, Al.
Yeah, that could be interesting, though. All right, cool. Now, the signal comes in. Okay, this is Frank. The signal comes in 2. You switch to the chart 3. You think a bit. Is it not too late by then to enter? Well, see, that depends on your condition, which is what I wanted to show. Building a condition. Let me just kind of explain what I would have shown here. So let's add the indicators now. So I think this will be a kind of a clarification of how I'm actually using it, Frank. So I'm adding the 55, EMA, and then the linear regression. Where are we at here? Goodness gracious, I have all these indicators. All right. So what I would do, Frank, let me see if it's not fixed. I don't know why my Ninja does this to me. I think I have some bad DLLs is what it is. But anyway, what I would do would be to show when the bar is near to this EMA 55, Frank. So when it's within a couple of ticks, I want to give a signal, all right, both long and short signal. All right, if the linear regression 10 is below the EMA 55, then that would give me the direction, all right. If it's below, I want to give a short. So on this bar right here that we're getting a long, which is obviously from the 210 cross, all right, what I would do would show this as a short signal. Oh, isn't that lovely? Let me tell you something about NinjaTrader's hotkeys. Alt F3 is a down arrow. Alt F4 deletes your chart. That is something I do quite often. Okay, one more time. So this will make sense in about a minute and a half, Frank. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm showing actually before my trigger, which my trigger would be once we close below these lows here. So my trigger is actually going to be on this bar, all right? I'm going to get an alert on this bar when this bar is within a couple of ticks from the EMA 55. All right, so let me actually make that a down arrow like I tried to do before, but then deleted my chart. So we would want to give a short alert on this bar. All right, that alert would come up in the market analyzer, and it, I could have it say potential short or potential trend trade or just trend trade or whatever, and color it red, obviously, for a short. So then I would click on it, and obviously we can link these together. So then I would just click on it, and it would populate the chart with the associated instrument that I clicked on. And I would have, a couple of minutes, a few minutes, as we're coming back up to the EMA, well, I could say, okay, well, using other discretionary methods, do I want to take this signal? Do we have any other reason for a short? Well, yes, we do. We're at the top of this trend channel. So, okay, where do I want to get in? Well, I want to get in when it breaks below this obvious support that we had for about 8 minutes in a row. So then we close below it, I pull the trigger, and then I write it down. All right? And then we have an obvious kind of I'm sure that's volume divergence right there. You just see, I would imagine it has to be, yep, obviously. And that's my exit. And then a potential re-entry with the volume divergence there. All right? So that's kind of how I use it, Frank. So I want to give the conditions that are leading up to the potential trade. You understand what I mean? So rather than giving the actual entry condition, the trigger, I want to give the conditions leading up to the trigger so that I have time to do my other discretionary methods, whether it be, analyzing waves or trend channels or volume or however I do, and then I decide whether I want to take that trigger or not. So whereas, a lot of systems, whereas people can develop a really great entry if they could just filter that entry based on some other discretionary methods, then they'd really have a great system. But programming some of those methods has been a nightmare, virtually just not doable. The human eye is pretty incredible. I mean, we can. What I do is I program as much as I can so that the computer can do 90% of the work, and then I add in the 10%. So that's how BloodHound has totally just revolutionized how I approach the markets. And I think that's a way that many people aren't using it, that they really don't even know that they can use it like that. So that's kind of why I wanted to show you guys a little bit about this, because this can really tremendously help you. Keep an eye on more markets and kind of cherry pick those setups. Like I was saying, you design the conditions leading up to the trigger, and then when those conditions are met, then you pull up the market and kind of cherry pick those trades. So maybe you're only taking one trade, or let's say 2 trades per market per week, but you're looking at 5 or 6 different markets. You know what I mean? So you're able to fine-tune some of those entries, and then have a lot higher reward to risk. So whereas some people look for 3 to 1, I'm looking for like 13 to 1 reward to risk. Okay? So that's kind of how I do it. So for instance, for this one, my stop would be right here, right above the entry bar. So that would be my risk, and then my reward would be right there. So that's about 10 to 1. Okay, and that's just one example on a 1-minute chart. I usually, 1 minute is the lowest chart that I look at. So I'm more fond of a 3 and a 5. Now, what else do we have here? If you're using a 5 or a 10, okay, could we use the extender to lengthen the, therefore, market analyzer signal? Yes, you could, of course. Of course, you could add a, let me just show you how you would do that. So, sorry, BloodHound, we'll do the 210 across again. All right. So absolutely we could. We could actually even use the look back. If you wanted to have a reset, this is probably getting advanced, but if you wanted to have a reset, then you could use the signal extender. If you didn't need a reset, then I would recommend using the look back, as it's probably takes less resources, I would imagine, than the signal extender does. I don't know that for sure, but I would imagine, well, if you just turn the reset off, then I guess it would be about the same. Huh, Zach? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think the look back probably uses less resources.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So right, if we wanted to extend it, say, I don't know, 5 bars, let's say. Right, and this is what's interesting about this look back. If you wanted 5 total bars, you would want to use the max. All right, you have the max, the average, and the min. The max is telling you, did the signal occur at any time during the past 5 bars? If it did, color all 5 bars true. That's kind of the simplest way that I can explain what max means. All right, min means that the signal must have occurred on all 5 consecutive bars, which obviously is never going to happen since this is only a 1-bar condition. All right, so min, and you might want to write this down if you're, taking notes and you want to know what the look back is all about. The min says that the condition must have been true on all 5 bars. All right, and then the max is saying that was it true on any of the past 5? If so, how would you better explain that,
So Daniel,
Zach?
yeah. So what the look back is doing, right, is, as the name implies, it's looking back, back into the historical bars. So if you have that mode set to minimum, then what the look back node is doing is it's looking for the minimum value 5 bars back. Right? So as the node is looking back 5 bars, it's finding the minimum value. So if your crossover solver has a value of 0 where there was no crossover, right? 0 on the output, 0 on your long output is the minimum value. And so the look back node is going to say, oh, 0 is my minimum value, and that's what the look back will output the minimum value that it finds as it looks back 5 bars. So if you set it to max, then the look back node will output the maximum value that it finds when it's looking back 5 bars.
Right.
So a long signal, would be a value of 1. So as the look back is looking back 5 bars, if it finds a signal, then that signal is the maximum value that it found looking back 5 bars, and it just holds on to that maximum value that it finds.
Right. Perfect. And then obviously average is doing an average of all of them. So so for the average then, so let's say we had a crossover.
The average is taking the value from the 5 bars that it's looking back, and it's averaging those 5 bars up. So
right, but I mean, if only one of the bars is output of 1 and the other ones are 0,
yeah, so it's
not
1,
doing 0.
Yeah, so the average would be 1 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus
divided by
0 and divide by 5.
Exactly.
Yep.
Gotcha. Perfect. And then the signal extender is just extending the signal 5 bars, which is pretty much like using max for the look back.
Yes.
Not in every single case, but most often, I would say, right?
Yeah, the signal extender would be the same as the look back set to max.
Right. And of course, if we wanted to reset the condition, let's say, if we wanted to reset it when we had a crossover in the opposite direction, then we would connect, or actually we wouldn't even need to run it to the reset. We would just set the reset for the input. So explaining this a little bit further, we have all of these different resets for the input, and then we could even have a different condition coming into the reset right here to reset this extender. So right now we're resetting after 5. We could set this to 10. Okay, and it's going to push that signal forward 10 bars. Let's set it back to 5. And let's say we wanted to reset it when we had the opposite signal from the 210 crossover. So coming into the input, we had an opposite signal. So where we're now seeing both long and short signals on the same bars. So you see we have red here, then brown, which is red and green, and then a long signal, green. We would want to eliminate the extension of that short signal when we got the opposite signal, which would be a long. So we'll set this to true and see how that works. So here we got the long signal on this bar. All right, signal started short on this bar. So we were extending that short signal forward 5 bars, and then also starting when we got the long signal, we were extending that one forward 5 bars as well. So then you saw the overlap where we're getting both long and short signals at the same time. All right, if you wanted to only extend it up into the point where you have the opposite signal, then you want to input opposite signal set to true. Okay, so when I turn this back to false, you can see we get both signals. Okay, so hopefully that that explained that well enough for you. So let's set that back to true now.
The realistic answer to Al's question is, the market analyzer really doesn't function very well on fast-moving charts.
Right.
If you're using a 10-second chart with the market analyzer, hopefully you guys kind of have realized by now that your opportunity is missed by the time you pull up that chart.
Exactly.
When you get the signal from the market analyzer. I think the market analyzer was more designed for stock traders, right? So you want to look through 1,000 stocks,
right.
and you've got
like a scanner,
and you're like a swing trader. You hold on to a stock for a couple of weeks, so you just need a signal at the end of the day, that you're looking through your market analyzer, and then the next morning you place an order to buy that stock. The market analyzer really, I guess, doesn't function that well for day traders unless you're trading like a higher time frame, like maybe a 5-minute or a 3-minute chart. So,
I use it. I kind of agree with you to some extent. I use it on a 1-minute chart with a very large template, that volume divergence template that I've built, and it does take up some resources, but it still works well enough for me to use it, and I use about 6 different symbols. So I wouldn't say that it's useless for day trading. And that's not what you're saying, but I use it on a 1-minute for a very intensive template on about 7 different instruments, and I haven't had any issues with it, and it seems to work pretty well. A lot of people say that the market analyzer is very resource intensive. It is to some extent, but I haven't had any problems with it. So I don't know if any of you have, but yeah, you can use it, like Zach is saying, below 1 minute could be problematic. It depends on if you're using tick charts. Say you're using a 500 tick chart on the crude oil, well, that would be equivalent to maybe sometimes it would be equivalent to a 1 minute, sometimes it would be equivalent to a 15-second, other times it would be equivalent to a 5-minute. So tick charts can obviously be iffy, but yeah, like he's saying, if you have a super fast chart and you're trying to keep track of signals, well, then how are you going to be able to respond to those signals in a timely manner if you're looking at such a fast chart anyway? And that's one of the things that I try to get people to do, is to slow down, get away from these just ridiculously fast charts, and start looking at a 5-minute and a 3-minute and a 15-minute. And focus on trade selection and developing your methodology. When you're working on these really fast charts, if price action wasn't random enough for you, then it's purely random. And a lot of people say it's purely random anyhow, but if that was the case, how can we make money off of patterns? But when you're getting down into these really fast charts, the patterns that you think you're seeing aren't really recurring to the extent to which you could profit from them. So if I could make any recommendation, it would be to start using a 5-minute and a 3-minute, possibly fine-tune your entries on a 1-minute. Now, what else do we have?
I'm going to address Frank's earlier question way up here on the top of the list. Frank was asking, how do you protect a BloodHound template? So that question kind of came out from an earlier comment that Daniel had made when he was talking about his services. So some of you may have seen some of our partners sell what we are calling a black box system, right? So it's basically a black box file, or a black box system is a BloodHound file that's been protected, right? So that the source code can't be seen. So that way, our partners, can build a BloodHound system and not have it copied. So we haven't made black boxing publicly available yet. We're still kind of internally, discussing the implications of that. We're trying to find this balance. We will make it publicly available, but we kind of need to figure out what the ramifications could be, because we don't want BloodHound to get known for making a bunch of cruddy black box auto trading systems. So if we just kind of opened it wide open to everybody, then people could just flood the market with these cruddy auto trading systems. So we want we want to find a way to kind of prevent that. And one of the ways that I think one of the ways that we think we're going to be able to solve this is is we're eventually going to have a shark store where people can sell their black box systems, and what we're going to do is try and implement a way that tracks the system's stats. So we're going to probably partner up with somebody else like Striker or somebody else who has a framework already in place that basically is trading these auto traders and tracking the stats. That way people can see what's a good system versus what's a garbage system. So we're kind of
That's a good
holding
idea.
off before we make this black box publicly available, until we can get some kind of system to kind of ensure that people have a good source to go to figure out is somebody selling something that's garbage, or are they selling something that's legit and worth purchasing. So in the meantime, as Daniel had mentioned, he has the ability to create black box systems. He's been doing that for some of our partners. So if some of you would like to have your system converted into a black box, then I would suggest talking with Daniel, and we'll let Daniel kind of filter that for us. So that's how you can get that done there, Frank. If you think you got something that is really worthwhile, then you could have Daniel make you a black box system for it as well. So, and you also have to think about licensing as well. We don't have a built-in licensing system yet into BloodHound. That's something else that we're going to have to work on. We've created an interim solution for our partners, because our partners already have NinjaTrader's licensing system. They already have a way to license their own custom indicators. So we kind of created an interim way with our partners to license the black box. But you just realize if you make a black box, if you don't have a way to license it, then anybody can copy it, and it can just get copied and distributed out freely and given away, and you have no way of turning that black box off. So it's, you know, something else to consider, guys, if you want to create a black box, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and Dan had asked, you know, what kind of system makes the market analyzer not a problem. Well, this is what I'm using, so if that's any help, it's just a, you know, i7 3.4, 16 gigabytes of RAM, so nothing, you know, it's a fairly, I guess it is a pretty decent system, but
yeah, really, it just depends on how
any.
many instruments you load up in the market analyzer.
Exactly.
You know,
and how many bars you're using to look back to.
Yeah, right, and how complex your BloodHound system is.
Right.
You know, so there's a lot of variables in answering that question there, Dan.
Exactly.
You know, so I just kind of gave you a joking response there.
Right.
You know.
Okay, and Dan, you were asking about my schedule, so I'm been kind of booked up lately. I have quite a few responsibilities that I have to take care of between now and the 19th for a couple of different partners, myself included. We have a couple of big webinars coming up, and I'm trying to get a lot of stuff done for myself and a few other people before then, so it may show me as being unavailable for a few days next week and possibly, well, yeah, the week after as well. So if you want, you can just go to my website, trade-the-plan.com, and then schedule an appointment. It will bring you to this site. You can just either click, you know, free consultation or what have you, and next, and then select the time available. All right, well, take care, everyone. I really enjoyed this. Hopefully we can do it again